Good morning, friends and colleagues across the globe. Pavel Krastev, DDS, with you today in New Hyde Park, New York. On behalf of the Global Summit Organization, myself and Dr. Shah, as well as all of our commissioners, we'd like to welcome you today. We have a wonderful show planned. I will explain momentarily the agenda and how we will go through the day and make the best of it. So just a little history for our younger and newer audience. The Global Summit Organization has been exploding for the last few years, and the Global Summit is the mothership, as I like to call it. And under the mothership, we do many things which basically revolve around sharing education with our friends and colleagues and bringing some of the world's best speakers to share their wisdom and experience and techniques throughout healthcare. So one of the arms of the Global Summit Organization is the Hex Commission. And the Hex Commission is a entity that we decided to launch last year. And we basically like to bring up all the critical and important issues in healthcare that face us today in order to bring up certain discussions, to raise some questions, and hopefully guide the pendulum a little bit at a time in a positive direction for our younger colleagues. And ultimately, it's for the betterment of healthcare in general across the globe, and in order to treat our patients with greater accuracy and success. So today, we have 36 questions, and we have 12 commissioners, one of which could not make it due to unforeseen reasons. So that commissioner's questions will be addressed by Dr. Shah and myself instead. So the way we will present the show is we will go around the table 3 times, and each time we will address one question with each commissioner for approximately 2 minutes or so. Prior to this little introduction, Dr. Shah will say a few words and greet all of you audiences out there and the lovely colleagues. We're all very grateful that you're here with us today. And of course, we are what we are, thanks to all of you. So on that note, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Shah to say a few words and greet you guys. And we look forward to really having a great day, and welcome commissioners, and hello to everyone. Dr. Shah, please.
Thank you, Dr. Krastev, and welcome to the commissioners. And welcome to the Global Summits Institute. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, friends and colleagues. You might wonder what the Global Summits Institute is all about. We are here to enable and empower doctors. It's our wish and will to bring back autonomy to the healthcare industry. Look around, ask around. The more doctors and patients we interact with, it's very obvious that they're not happy. Most are not happy. And this happiness, we wonder where it stems from. We believe that this unhappiness comes from all of these third parties that have inserted themselves into the healthcare industry without any fraternity to our professions. For thousands of years, we have been practicing medicine and healthcare without them. The fact of the matter is there is no healthcare industry without doctors. But there will always be a healthcare industry without third parties. So today we will focus on these third parties, what challenges we face, and how we can possibly solve them. So what do these third parties want? They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. They want control, power, profit, those things that are in conflict with our inherent beliefs. We, on the other hand, may or may not have such resources and international connections, but we do have each other, and we're bound as doctors. Think about a family. A family has disputes, arguments, fights, sometimes ugly fights, disagreements. But when external forces come around, families stick together. We have to put our differences aside. We have to work as one unit in order to solve these problems. To us, one doctor is more powerful than all of the third parties combined. The problem is that over the past 40, 50 years, we have been isolated. We have been caring for our patients, for our families, doing the right thing in our communities, while they were scheming, and they came in the middle of the night. So how do we bring autonomy back to the healthcare industry? We cannot achieve that by fighting them and wasting our time. What we have to do, we have to be innovative and create sustainable systems that will last the ages to come. Today, you will hear from doctors of pharmacy, optometry, medicine, chiropractic, and philosophy, and dentistry. We come together in this Hex Commission to bring the things that we learned to the table so we can share it with you and elicit innovation and ideas. If you hear topics today that are discussed, and most, if not all, third parties will be discussed today, and you have ideas and innovations that you want to bring to life while you continue to do your practice or other endeavors that you're involved in, we will help you and we will empower you. One of the arms, in addition to the Hex Commission, is the Universal School of Health. We are the Universal School of Health. The top 100 doctors are the Universal School of Health. We draw from them because at this institute, only the opinions of doctors matter. Therefore, if you have ideas and innovations, concepts that you wish to bring to market, we have a 2-year program while you can practice full-time and at the same time earn a doctorate of business administration. And we will help you from A to Z to bring your idea to life. And also we will give scholarships for those that have great innovations that will provide for solutions for these concepts. Technological solutions, other peer-to-peer solutions. So the Global Summit Institute at the end of the day is about doctors, and it's about us working together, doing business together, and solving the problems and the ills of our own industry. With that said, I look forward to having your participation and beginning our line of questioning from and hear what news and information and facts our colleagues can bring to us so we can benefit from them accordingly. So with the first question will be directed at Commissioner Dr. Gurian Demiraki, and it involves a very, very hot topic between working as an associate and working for corporate or managed type settings. Dr. Gurian, my personal belief is that private practitioners that own their own practices have a better chance of controlling their destiny than working for other corporate outfits. What is your opinion on this topic?
Hi, Dr. Shah. I'm so glad to be with you today and with the other commissioners. Well, the way I see it is like the difference between working for yourself as a doctor and working for someone else. And when I mean someone else, most of the time it is someone else that has lower education and it is driven by profit. This way, I am of course saying that I would prefer an environment with similar qualified doctors, specialized in different branches with similar goals, and having in mind the Hippocratic Oath that unites us. Doing so, we can compete, we can complete each other in helping the patient with these multidisciplinary problems. The quality of the treatment will always be as good as possible because profit is not the principal guidance. This way, long-term, we can gain new patients since we are doing the best advertisement that it is, which it means a satisfied patient brings new ones. In a profit-driven environment like big chain clinics, hospitals, with one owner, several owners, financial directors, doctors tend to compete with each other even if you have different specialization, since you have to be able to make your work financially profitable. Nothing and no one should be in your path. This leads to problems then, of course, because not always the treatment is performed by the most qualified doctor. A necessary competition between doctors, well, that's it, let's face it. Today, many doctors speak badly about their colleagues, and this is mostly financially driven, unfortunately. Well, I could conclude here, I can say that being an associate is a stepstone to your own practice and the way to control your own destiny, not working for others that either don't care or they have other priorities in mind. In time, we can then unite and govern hospitals ourselves without the need of, third parts. Thanks, Dr. Shah. I think I am finished.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer. Dr. Pavel, can you please address the next question? You're muted.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Dr. Morris, pleasure to see you, my friend. We've done quite a few of these Hex meetings together, and always a pleasure to see you. So in regard to healthcare, and I mentioned in the introduction that we like to move the pendulum in a positive direction if we can by uniting. In your opinion, how does the Global Summit organization and the doctor movement move this pendulum? How do we create this revolutionary movement in a positive direction?
Dr. Krastev, Dr. Shah, thank you for having me. Other commissioners, I bid you guys a good day. So with regards to the revolutionizing healthcare, I think, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, there's never been an organization like this one before, one that was truly doctor-centric, one that really looked at the issues and the trials that healthcare providers go through as they traverse private practice life. So the way I see it is, when you look at the Global Summit, you have to look at what the mission is. And the mission is to inspire, enable, and empower doctors. That is something that's lacking throughout all spectrums of healthcare. You go to school and you're taught to learn the science, which is great. But being able to understand the business side, I think is even more important for all healthcare providers. I mean, when you look at the GSI, again, looking at the vision, which is to create a global think tank, let's face it, healthcare is everywhere. It's all over the world. And what happens in, let's say, Europe or Asia with regards to healthcare eventually trickles across the spectrum and comes to us on our shores here in North America. So being able to learn from all the different healthcare groups across the world will, I think, help empower and strengthen us as a community of healthcare providers. And through school, we all learn one, do one, teach one, which is the motto of the GSI. And I think it is important to extrapolate that in a business setting. So those of us who've gone ahead and are already doing living a private practice life, we've seen ups and downs. So being able to teach the upcoming class, hey, you know what? This is what I did. It didn't work. Try this instead. I think is important for us as a group, being able to help each other grow. And I think that's my takeaway as how the Global Summit Institute, as well as the Doctors Doctor movement, can help revolutionize healthcare. Being able to give doctors a voice and a platform to help each other and remove the stigma and the idea of ultra competitive philosophies that we all grew up with. I think it's important for us to tackle these things head on as a group of healthcare practitioners. I yield back to you, Dr. Krastev. Thank you.
So much, Dr. Morris. That was very enlightening, and you're absolutely right. In no matter what profession we practice, well, once you get out of school, you very often don't you know how to do your profession, but there's so many other areas that you don't know, and that's what inspires us to reach out on so many different levels and educate. Thank you so much. And now, Dr. Shah, I'd like you to turn it over to Dr. Ora.
Excellent.
Good
Thank
morning.
you, Dr. Krastev. Good morning, Dr.
Good
Ora.
morning, Dr. Krastev. Good morning, Dr. Shah. Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, LA, or wherever you are in the world. So my focus is on podinars. So let's first and foremost explain that the expression was coined by the Global Summit Institute, podinar. So what is it? Well, in the world of technology, the next generation interactive continuing education platform, that is a podinar. So I would say it's first of its kind. It was designed by healthcare professionals for healthcare professionals. It has three components, or maybe I would say three layers, combining the educational strategies, the peer-to-peer learning, and a podcast with a video format. The Global Podinar Summit, GPS, can be accessed by healthcare professionals from all over the world. The podinars cover a wide range of topics, and they actually feature esteemed professionals from their field of knowledge. And also they are offered as complementary tools by GSI. I would say a podinar, it's a way to improving access to educational opportunities worldwide. And also GSI believes that the Podinar format will create a more intimate learning experience between the presenters and the viewership, the audience. A Podinar via technology, I would say, are and will make an impact on developing initiatives to improve the quality of life for patients. And they leverage technology, and they also use social media in order to reach healthcare professionals from all over the world. The ones that I would say inspire us, the ones that have the ability to learn and teach others. And the Podinar, it's there because for all the ones who are not going to have the ability to travel, they are not going to have the finance, or I would say they are not going to have the access to gain this wealth of knowledge.
That's excellent, Dr. Ora. I really appreciate it. So they can register for the Podinars on top100doc.com. And as you know, it's the flow of information is what's power, and we need to keep the flow of information amongst doctors. Thank you. Dr. Krostev, please address the next commissioner.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. Dr. Pretender, pleasure to see you, my friend. So in regard to good governance versus government overreach, how do we address that issue? We as healthcare providers, how much are we willing to allow other entities to govern us? And when does it become too much? Also, if you can touch on at what point should autonomy and benevolence supersede above all?
Well, a big hello to all. Great question, Pavel. Have to answer with many things in mind. Well, good care depends on good governance and internal supervision in the organizations that provide care. And we as healthcare providers can make our own policies on good governance within the legal framework set by the government. Now, when we come to a purpose of good governance in the care sector, it's like care providers are free to structure their organization as they see fit and make their own decisions. The government keeps its distance in this respect. So care providers must deal with the consequences of their decisions. This means they could go bankrupt. So it is important that organizations have their affairs in order. Leadership, internal supervision, and risk management are very important factors. And if you say how to improve the quality of management in the healthcare sector, there is setting up of external supervision of governance, or we can have increased patient participation. Management can have a lot of better factor in their needs. Now, a great part of the question, the government overreach. I would say beware of the government overreach to protect our health. It is really important to remember these values we deal in this COVID-19 pandemic. The most striking aspect of this is the American public response, which has been extensive, purely voluntary compliance with city, state, local code guidelines and orders. That phrase, voluntary, is very crucial. Some of the guidelines have hardened into legal mandates, but even in those cases, people have cooperated willingly because they don't want to do the right thing, both for themselves and for their country. So I would suggest that let's make a balance between a good governance and a government overreach. So I would say balancing the right to assemble with public safety should be the motto. If you say doctors nationwide are burnt out and very unsatisfied, and many want to quit the profession entirely, according to a new survey by the Physicians Foundation. The government deserves much of the blame for this low morale of the doctors. For years, they have fed, cuts in our pay, meddled with our, sessions in the health policies, etc. So I would say this low level of job satisfaction among doctors is especially very shocking, since physicians have traditionally been some of the best paid, most respected professionals in the world. And, I would just relate this question to our Hex Commission and Universal School of Health. So we are giving this additional, or diploma, you can say, probably a degree, which doctors can coordinate along with their career plans, so that all these policies can be tackled properly. And now you said something about autonomy in healthcare. What is autonomy? It is the right of competent adults to make informed decisions about their own medical care, right? So we should have the full right. There should be autonomy. I, as a person, should have my right to healthcare. I don't want a third party to guide me where to go for my treatment and what kind of treatment do I want. And benevolence is an act of charity, mercy, and kindness with a strong connotation of doing good to others, including moral obligation. So I would say, yes, they both are related to each other, but what we require is autonomy. So the conditions of autonomy should be fulfilled, and where patients lack the capacity to make a decision, it follows necessarily that decisions must be made on their behalf. Very young children ordinarily have the majority of decisions made by parents and caretakers. Where adults lack healthcare decisions, they are ordinarily made by the healthcare agencies. My friends, let's create an autonomy and make our own rules for healthcare. And this is our motto of Universal School of Health as well. Thank you very much.
Amazing. I completely agree with you, Dr. Singh. Governments need oversight so they don't cross the line in terms of the balance between our autonomy and healthcare. And this oversight is really needed in a world of globalization where we get our information, our supplies, we're getting so integrated. So great opinion, and we will build it. With that, let's turn our attention to Dr. Chuang. Dr. Chuang, there's always this fight in our minds as doctors. We went to school for 20 some years and to learn what healthcare is about. Even if governments and these third parties are sincere, they don't know what they're talking about. How does a doctor find balance between all of these forces, quantity, quality, profit, and a successful practice, while respecting what binds us all, the Hippocratic Oath? What's your opinion on this topic?
Greetings, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for having me here, and Dr. Shah and Dr. Krasaf, thank you, and greetings to all my colleague commissioners and everyone being here. I really appreciate it. Quality, quantity, and defining the success. Well, I can tell you right now, quantity, I don't know about all of you, but quantity and quality it just doesn't seem to be, for me, that's just challenging to work hand in hand. Because if all I care about is quantity, what am I doing? I'm throwing quality out the door as a practitioner. And in quality, so you know what, let me just take quality, okay? I mean, I'm gonna take quality over quantity, because yes, it's all about, let's deliver that quality of care, right? It's quality of care to our patients, no matter what discipline we're in here, all our different practitioners that we are here. Yes, it's always best patient care, the quality, but here is what's going to help define success is your patient experience. So patient's experience, when it comes to quantity, what am I going to do? Just, I want to see 50, 100 patients a day. I'm just going to hurt them through like cows. Again, sorry, forget about the quantity. And that quality, it's going to be, yes, you're going to have more time with me. And listen, when it comes to success, okay, we all want to make a profit. We've got overheads and bills to tend to, but that time, yeah, we invest quite a bit in our education. So therefore, we're going to charge accordingly for that time. But when it comes, and it is patient's experience, and that patient's experience equals success, because best advertisement to help grow success, again, maybe, I'm a bit old-fashioned my way, is word of mouth. Okay, when you're with me, you, the patient, when you're with me, you're all that matter. You are the star, you are the celebrity. And it is going to be your experience, me delivering, right? Us delivering best quality of care. They're going to get the best experience. And from there, they're going to go tell everyone and their mother. We're going to end up taking care of the family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, co-workers. So when you ask quality, quantity, and success, sorry, those three things, they're not going to work hand in hand. You just got to throw quantity out the door. Okay, quality of care, equals success of the business, the success of the practice, and its patient experience at the top of the list. Thank you.
I think that was a great point in terms of quality over quantity. I wish the corporations are listening very carefully, which leads me actually into your question, Dr. Pavel, about the next topic of what you believe the future of healthcare holds. How do we bring the autonomy back for these healthcare providers and patients?
Well, Dr. Shah, when it comes to this question, there's many answers, I believe, but the future is always changing and being innovated as we speak. So we have a responsibility to innovate and to move forward for the betterment of the overall area that we work with, that we treat. So I'm trying to think of some good analogies. It's all about structure. It's about knowing what we're innovating and knowing what the next step should be. So when it comes to innovation, every product should be tested, should be well studied, and then promoted to treat patient well-being. So computerization will be very, very big in my opinion. At some point in time, I am almost certain that robotics will essentially, you program a computer that scans the tooth, you program into it, this is what we want you to do, just like a CNC machine. And I think these things will be much more accurate than the human hand at this point. But look, when I look back at my career, so I'm just on the cusp of hitting 30 years in dentistry. If someone would have told me that we'd be doing guided surgery and these kind of cases and planning with such accuracy, I would have said, please get committed to a mental asylum. But it's reality today. So in the next 20 years, I anticipate that there will be a tremendous movement in robotics with robotics rather, and software that's going to take us to the next step.
What do you think to address the second part of the question, autonomy, how do we bring it back? Resistance to what we believe is wrong is one thing, but how do we bring the control back to doctors?
Well, we have to first unite, because if we go our own separate ways and each one of us is pulling one way, and we never get accomplish anything. And that's, I think, the advantage of what we do with Global Summits and this entire organization, is that we'd like to unite everyone across healthcare, not just doctors, so that we have a voice together. Because if we make the rules that we follow, or rather the rules are made by other doctors and colleagues, it's one thing, because they understand our daily problems and our daily needs. But if people who make the rules and regulations, who are not in our business, in our theater of education, but they're just merely legislators, they don't understand our problems, and they don't understand where we want to go necessarily. So I think little by little, we must all push that we ourselves have some part in making guidelines and regulations when it comes to healthcare.
Excellent. Great point. Uniting is the key. We have to work as one uncompromising unit. So, Dr. Krastev, thank you for that answer. Now we're going to switch over to Dr. Chong from the wonderful world of chiropractic. So, Doc, in order to slowly and systematically weed out these third parties, why is it important that we lean on the advice of our colleagues versus any of them?
Well, thank you, Dr. Krastev, Dr. Shah, commissioners, and colleagues from around the world. When I say colleagues, part of the importance of collaboration is respect for our colleagues in various different doctorals, and especially practicing doctors. It's a different world. Let me share something that the audience might not be aware of. That is, chiropractic has been an underdog profession. And I say that because chiropractic started as a North American, American and Canadian profession, and then has spread out throughout the world, but not completely around the world, unlike other professions like dentistry and medicine and others. And so it's a curious spot to be in. So for us to collaborate universally, it's a challenge to begin with. And there may be other professions in that field as well. Optometry, I can think of one of them, as I've spoken with other doctors in their fields. So collaboration among specialties takes some identity. And what I mean by that is chiropractors need to get out of the identity crisis. And if you're in another profession that has an identity crisis, I like to be known as a neuromusculoskeletal expert. And doctors, for their own reasons, are free to brand how they want, but sometimes that branding and public image is very confusing. So that's where governance and it being a registered profession, as registered professions, we have to be governed and self-governed, and that's the key thing, not to be told by governments or other interest parties how I should practice or how you should practice. So the inequities around the world will continue to be a challenge, but Doctors Uniting Global Summits Institute, it's all an organization that is brilliant, really, to bring doctors to equal footings. And in summary of that question, I would say that defining chiropractic as a specific entity and then having your own, areas of special practice interest really is a fundamental key to being a collaborator in amongst doctors and colleagues around the world. That's what I have to say.
Well, that's wonderful, Dr. Chong, and nice to see you today. Very, very nice touch there. Now we turn our attention to, well, thanks, to Dr. Mark Sana. Hi, Dr. Sana. Pleasure to see you as well. So please discuss for our audience the pros and cons when it comes to working as an associate. What do our younger colleagues need to know when faced with this choice? What do they do upon graduation? And also, why is it important for a doctor to build equity in his or her own practice, as opposed to when they work somewhere and they perhaps don't build equity?
Well, thank you, Dr. Krastev and Dr. Shah and distinguished commissioners. It's truly an honor to, as a second-generation chiropractor, to participate in this historic broadcast together. It is multidisciplinary, multinational, and forward-thinking. And in terms of responding to your question, it's interesting times that we're in right now, that a student will graduate from chiropractic college with close to $250,000 worth of debt, student debt. And that's a lifetime of debt. Some of the students are 55 years old before they're paying off that debt. And on the other hand, it's a challenge to practitioners who have created a successful practice to be able to form a succession plan or an exit strategy for themselves as they get into their senior years. I like to think of it as the best of both worlds in an associateship. I kind of consider it the Batman Robin, where Batman is that sage clinician experienced in diagnosis and case management, and Robin is sort of the young blood, maybe a little unsure clinically, but completely unintimidated by the technology that you referred to, Dr. Krastev. And I actually teach in my consulting practice a program called SEBO, S-E-B-O, or Sweat Equity Buyout. So in an associateship, typically there's a base salary plus some sort of a bonus structure or an incentive for bonus. And normally what will happen is the associate will take that bonus and increase their lifestyle, buy a better car, bigger house, etc. And what I recommend is that the doctor who is the associate and the owner doctor develop an agreement where the purchasing doctor, the associate, actually puts aside into an escrow account those bonus monies, and they accumulate over a period of 5 years, so that at the end of 5 years, those monies are available to the associate. They can be a significant amount of money, depending upon how aggressive the associate is with setting aside those monies, to actually fund the purchase of that practice. On the other hand, the sort of golden handcuffs are that those escrowed funds are defaulted to the owner should the associate terminate the agreement prior to the 5-year commitment. And so that gives the owner peace of mind, knowing that I've got somebody here who's working toward the practice and building the practice. So as we move forward into this new healthcare model of consolidation of practices, an associateship, I think, is an essential consideration for new practitioners, and maybe being creative, thinking a little bit outside of the box of how we can actually make this financially happen is something to be considered as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sana. I'm sure our younger colleagues will appreciate your wisdom. Yeah, great points. Thanks. Dr. Shah, I turn it over to you for the next commissioner.
Thank you, Dr. Krastev. I really like Dr. Sana's answer pertaining only between an associate and a doctor. As you can tell, there is no other third party in the equation. And in most countries and territories, these management service organizations that attempt to take equity in the businesses are outlawed. In fact, in dentistry, 47 of the 50 states prohibit any ownership as much as a pencil in a medical practice by a non-licensed entity or person, by non-licensed person, I should say. Very well. Dr. Latran, I'd like to change focus back to you. And as you know, we have been deprived of business education in professional schools across the entire healthcare industry by design. Who is to blame? The accreditation bodies, the faculty setting these curricula at these universities and school. And half of the equation is your business acumen, because at the end of the day, it's healthcare, but it's also a business. No matter how good your manual dexterity and your photographic memory and all those things are that we learned in professional schools, how can we bring business acumen to doctors to be self-sufficient and independent?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Shah, and good day from Las Vegas. I'm traveling to attend another conference, and it's such an honor to be able to join our commissioners coming from all over the world. You know, understanding business has always been important, but I think as a group, we are bringing that to the forefront. I was talking to another doctor the other day, and he was laughing. He said, you're taking this as personal. And yes, it's very personal, because I graduated from dental school almost 30 years ago, and my daughter, who is in third year dental school, she's going to be graduating in 2 years, and she learns pretty much nothing like I did. And so I think as a group, we are so proud to create a curriculum that we will be bringing to the table. That's the Doctor of Business Administration, because this particular program taught by faculties from all over the world and also business gurus is going to close that gap between our clinical excellence and our business acumen, because at the end of the day, our patients are not going to remember, you know, how we are in the mouth or how we are with the eyes. They're going to remember our chairside manners. They are going to remember how we make them feel, and they're going to remember our contribution to the community. And so this program that we address from, you know, personal finance to business administrations and systems, and we also go into research on how to create impact in the community, the social impact. This will give our doctors the edge, right? The understanding, and close that gap that school never provided. And I think it's just our small part to do this, but I know that it's going to create great impact. So I invite our colleagues to follow us, to look into our programs. They can go to universalschoolofhealth.com. look up the programs, turn in an application. And we also, like you mentioned earlier, offer limited partial scholarships so we can give the equal opportunity to all the doctors. Because I think it's time that we become known as great business people, not just the doctor.
Excuse me, let me unmute myself. That was very nice, Dr. Lutran. And now I turn my attention to my dear friend, Dr. Pick. Hello, Bob. So, Dr. Pick, ethics, benevolence, and proper patient care are undoubtedly a key ingredient to long-term practice building. How and why is this such an important area that we need to address?
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. And to begin, thank you, commissioners, Dr. Shah, pat yourself on the back for beginning in something that I feel is going to be extremely important long-term to the success of all of our professions. Working together as a team together, everyone achieves more, is huge. And hello, everybody around the world, and welcome and I'm excited to be here with this amazing group of what I call super coolio awesome, purple cow wow people. Ethics is huge. And in a million years, on a lot of social media platforms, when the word ethics comes up, I get tagged. And I'm very honored for that, but ethics is huge. It's something that's going to come up in a question later on for me. But the question, part of the question put in here was the word benevolence. And although I use that word a lot, I looked it up just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. The quality of being well-meaning and kindness, that is so important. And what goes along with this, with ethics, is relationship building. When I lecture on practice management, I have the pick top secrets to a super successful practice, and that could be business. Relationship building is huge, and it's what I want to focus on here. And one of the things taught to me early on by mentors was something called a preclinical interview. It's something, interestingly enough, my original internist did with me. I do with all patients. I meet them away from the dental operatory in a smaller room. You know, it doesn't smell like a dental operatory. There's no bib on. I sit down. Hi, I'm Bob Pick. How are you? I get to know that patient. I find out why they're there, what drives them, what personality profile are they. Everybody's different. And when you develop that relationship, you begin to blow the patient away. If I have somebody very analytical, like a Mr. Spock or an accountant, I'm going to be a little bit more serious and I'm going to give a little bit more detail. It's 0.0756 millimeters when we complete the implant placement. You know, if I have somebody, that's Simon Cowell, well, let's get to the room and let's get moving and let's get this going on here. And when you develop a relationship, not only does ethics come into play automatically, but the patient develops trust with you. And when you develop trust and when you have ethics and you're kind and your team is kind, the entire patient population picks up on that. It separates you from everybody else in an ethical, amazing way. And as a side effect of that, they tell everybody about you. And it doesn't get any better than that. As a side note, we mentioned something earlier about robotics. That could be a whole 5-hour discussion because I believe that's the future of so much of what we do. I've always been very honored to be on staff at Northwestern, part of the dental team. We have a robotic system called Da Vinci right now. It can be used right in the hospital. The surgeon is 5 feet away from you doing a procedure. We also are associated with some third world countries where people can't afford care. The surgeon is here at Northwestern. That patient is in an operating room in a different country, hours away, the surgeon doing the procedure in a little desk. It is the most super coolio awesome thing I've ever seen. So that's my answer on ethics and benevolence and patient proper care.
Go ahead, Dr. Shah. You have the podium. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Bob. That was a great question. And it's going to lead us into a very important question next, which is the number one complaint by doctors that we have observed in different groups. Everyone talks about it. No one is really providing for any solutions. Dr. Kryak, that would be the insurance industry, which essentially sells dreams and bets. But how do you think we should handle them as they have grown out of a bag of a grocery store into this global empire? Should we be in network with them? Should we refuse them? Should we create alternative systems for them? How can we keep unlicensed interests out of diagnosis?
Thank you, Dr. Shah, and thank you to all of my esteemed colleagues. Truly a pleasure to be here today. So, Dr. Shah, I'm going to kind of talk back and say, it might be a better way to ask that question of today versus tomorrow. So is it wise to be in network with these companies today? Well, the answer is probably yes, because if not, then you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. However, but the question to ask is, Dr. Shah, why are you here? Dr. Pavel, why are you here? Why are we all here? We are here because we are a group of doctors that are banding together. So one doctor that has one voice that says, I disagree with that. I'm not going to be in network with you. The insurance company, so what? Great. Well, all of a sudden now, if there's a group of doctors, and there's many doctors that are out there that say enough is enough, then that's where they start to listen. That is what is important. So should we be a network? Well, we probably don't have much of a choice these days. But I think that that's going to change in the upcoming years. So I'm going to keep my answer short and sweet, just simply because it is a very short and sweet answer, and it is the heart and it is right at the center of why we are all here. Thank you.
Fantastic, Dr. Kryak. Always love to learn from you. Dr. Greenwood, my new dear friend, the question that we'd like you to address is to explain to our audience the theory of self-regulation that we strive to establish in healthcare in general, and how this benefits both patients as well as doctors.
First of all, I would like to thank you for being part of the panel. In my opinion, self-regulation is a system of conscious personal management that involves the process of guiding one's own thoughts, behaviors, and feelings to reach goals. Hence, practitioners and organizations with low impulse control are prone to acting on immediate desires and immediate gratification. Self-regulation, in essence, is a core attribute of the learned healthcare professions. It encompasses the responsibility and authority to establish and enforce standards of education, training, in addition to practice in a safe, competent, and ethical manner. In summary, this is currently lacking in the healthcare community and would be extremely beneficial to society.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
That's
some awesome points. Collaboration. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Greenwood.
Yes, thank you so much. Great response. I would add to it that all the third parties should hear this and should hear this very clearly. The patient-doctor relationship is non-negotiable. They must stay out of our operatories. They must stay out of our practices. We accept them as service providers, and that's it. Thank you so much for that. Let's go to the next topic, which is associations and other organizations. You have to understand that a business works based on fiduciary duty to your investors and to those that have contributed to you being able to operate in free society. Associations are paid membership scenarios. It is not always guaranteed that they're working in the best interest of membership. For example, if an advertiser comes along and says, hey, push this message and we'll give you X amount of money, they have to think about the bank account as well. So it's not necessarily, they're operated like a business. What are the pros and cons to this scenario, Dr. Demiraki?
Dr. Shah, thanks. It's really a very nice question. And a quote comes directly into my mind from the great Robin Williams. Politicians, and in this case, healthcare leaders, should wear sponsor jackets like NASCAR drivers. Then we know who owns them. The problem is most of these healthcare groups and associations does not just exclusively charge for membership to be self-sustained. Most of them have lots of industry sponsors. Profit-driven associations have the fiduciary duty to their investors and not to their members. So it is a business. They don't necessarily have our best interest in mind. And for what I've experienced also firsthand, the bureaucracy in them is overwhelming. Skills of the doctors are by far not involved in these cases. For instance, if you see their congresses, you can almost immediately understand who pulls the strings. They are like the Las Vegas of medicine, dentistry, or whatever. Full of special effects, actor-like speakers, and presenters that have not much in common with the common doctors. Most of the Congress speakers, of course, got several conflicts of interest. And this way, I see that there is not much difference from these influencers in Instagram and Facebook these days. You can spot them right away because they share so little clinical evidence to support their claims. However, they are present in every major Congress since the sponsor secures their spot. To give an example, we had a conversation with Pavel in one of our podinars. A pioneer of graftings was sharing his opinion, and Pavel asked me what was his experience with a certain famous grafting material of a certain famous implant producer. I hope Pavel remembers. And we all three agreed that it was a horrible experience. And the follow-ups of them were also horrible. But the fact remains that all three, we have tried it. And also this product is pretty much used these days also because of the advertisement involved and because everybody still continues to use it. This brings nothing good to our work. This just fills the pocket of the companies and their paid influencers. I don't even want to get started with internal democracy in these memberships and how the leadership is chosen. Many of the times it's like monarchy, you know, the leader position passes to the younger generation and he gets the new crown, you know. And for this, I'm going to let it pass to the other speakers.
That was Dr. Gurian, right spot on the money. And yeah, I remember the discussion we had regarding that particular material. Great points, Dr. Gurian. Dr. Morris, my friend, we're back with you. Another big question for you, Dr. Morris. So how can we reduce the ownership of practices by private equity companies who have no fraternity to healthcare and to us? You know, how we keep talking about this, but it's so important. How do we get that equity to come back to the doctors, to us? You know, we work hard, we study hard. We can't sell our souls away little by little, slowly. Please.
So when you look at what these firms or large corporations are doing, let's face it, they have seen in primary care practitioners or healthcare providers something that we don't see in ourselves, that we are the revenue generators. So the fact that they're trying to eat up and buy out all these groups is because they realize that, hey, there is revenue to be made with these with buying up these practices. Now, in order for us to get back to giving equity back to the doctors, it starts with education. It starts with removing that dog eat dog mentality that we all, those of us who've been in whether it's medical school, dental school, chiropractic, that kind of training, where we're all trained that this next person who's sitting next to you is going to be competing with you for patients. Once we can remove that idea and realize that, listen, there's enough to go around, and if we work together as a group, we stand to make exponentially more gains in terms of business and revenue for us as primary care providers. So this is where I think we need to start. We need to start by educating those doctors, coming up on the benefits, the pros, and yes, some cons of being in practice for yourself, of owning your own business. I think once we can get that ingrained from the beginning, I think as healthcare providers go through training, and once they're ready to step into the real world, like Emily's daughter, Dr. Latran's daughter, who's going to be ready for dentistry soon, they'll realize, you know what? I don't need to join a group. I can form my own thing and be as successful, if not more successful, and enjoy the benefits and the pleasures of ownership. Because those of us who are here, who are in private practice, you know what it feels like when it's your baby and you wake up and you go to work versus you going in and punching a clock for somebody else. So I think in order for us to remove that ownership or the competition for them to buy out practices, we need to educate all doctors, those of us who are in practice already working as part of some of these groups, and those of us, especially who are the young ones coming up, to fully understand the business of healthcare. Once we can do that, it's going to be all bets are off. And I think I know you're going to see a lot more equity going back into the hands of the doctors.
Equity is control and power. Equity is what we have as our chest to be able to pay off our debts in the future or retire early and have a bigger impact. They cannot pull the rug from underneath our feet by taking the equity away from us, our equity. Dr. Ora.
Dr. Shah.
Go ahead, Dr. Morris.
Yeah, just one more thing I wanted to add, just as an example for those of us who are here. A buddy of mine who was working for one of those particular big groups, who was basically employee, was constantly asking for things to be changed to make his work life better, was not getting it. And then they kept harping on him to see more, to Dr. Truong's point about quantity versus quality. He ended up, leaving that group after he got a glimpse of what the financials were. And just to throw some numbers out there, hopefully I'm not going to step on toes. I mean, for his salary as a physician, where he was making $150,000 a year, he had already brought in for the company $4 million within the first half of the year. So when he saw that, he realized, wait a minute, why am I working so hard for somebody else? And now he's doing great on his own for the last 2 years.
Yep. And that's what it's about. You have to, in order to set your destiny, you have to be in control of your own practice. You have to be a majority owner. You have to be able to call the shots. You have to select your supplies and your staff. It all trickles down to the chair side, and it trickles down to your future. Some empty promises about health benefits and 401k and all this things that never materialize really is not the way of a sustainable system. Thank you for that response, Dr. Morris. I know your medical field has been hit the most, followed by optometry and similar, and now they're coming for dental. But it's time to turn the tables. Dr. Ora, the next question is posed to you. How do you book a Podinar? Why is it important to bring your message to other doctors so we can gain the knowledge that we need to make the visions come to life? And how do you book one? Please explain.
Thank you so much for the question. Well, I think that Podinars are hosted by experts in their fields, exactly like the seasoned international lecturers and presenters. So how do you book one? Well, first and foremost, you're going to go on top100doc.com. Over there, pretty much you're going to click on Podinars, and you are going to click once again on speaker booking. The Podinar is going to be 1 hour and 50 minutes long. It has pretty much 2 parts. The very first part, it's a session conducted in a podcast format. The second one, the second half, it's a webinar slide format followed by a Q&A. So who are the ones that can actually book a Podinar? Well, there are all those professionals, the leading doctors such as physicians, pharmacists, optometrists, chiropractors, all the ones who would love to share their knowledge, their clinical excellence, and their innovative research. So what's the goal of a Podinar? Well, I always say that the good physician, it's the one that is treating the disease. The great physician, it's the one who treats the patient who has the disease. And the excellent physician, it's the one who treats the patient who has the disease, but also the one who shares the knowledge he has acquired with his peers, the tools he has used, and the innovative techniques he has discovered. And that's why we're here. Thank you so much.
Okay, that was wonderful. Dr. Pratinder, coming back to you, my dear friend. So what is the Hippocratic Seal of Acceptance? What was the theory behind us coming up with this concept? And also, who can apply for it? And what are the benefits of having the seal issued by the Hex Commission?
Well, the Hippocratic Seal of Acceptance, before answering that, I would like to mention something about the Hippocratic Oath. In the medical profession, the Hippocratic Oath is one of the most venerated documents. The oath states that the professional conduct and obligations of doctors, it is an oath of ethics that emphasizes the importance of medical ethics and professional standards in medicines. You know, it's everyone knows it was derived from the physician Hippocrates, who was regarded as the father of Western medicine. And if we talk of Hippocratic accreditation, I would like to tell you that on Hex Commission, that is, we have mentioned about Hippocratic accreditation to a very large extent, which clears the meaning of it. In the last few decades, the third-party service and product organizations have grown around accreditation organizations, professional schools, regulatory bodies, wherever they can exert their influence directly or indirectly interfering with the sacred patient-doctor relationship. So this relationship of a patient-doctor, we don't want any interference. So the noble professions have become more of a marketing function, and the public has lost faith in the professions and the healthcare industry. It needs to be restored. So the Hippocratic accreditation by the Hex Commission, the principles are the premise of our oaths and obligation to patients. First, do not harm. That is our main aim. Then thought leaders, namely doctors, should continue to guide the destiny of the noblest professions as they have for thousands of years. As we enter the world of globalization in healthcare, domestic accreditation bodies do not have any significant oversight, which is uninvited corporatization of the healthcare industry. If you don't mind, if I give an example of the WHO, they are, doing their own decisions, and most of the decisions or the aims and objectives, they are not welcomed. So I would say a universal accreditation body as Hex Commission, we are open to all types of new laws which are in pursuance or which are in positive with relation to a doctor to a patient. Now, to reestablish this order, the Global Summit Institutes, composed exclusively of doctors, optometrists, chiropractors, philosophers, as nominated by the peers, will be offering Hippocratic accreditation to any and all organizations deemed worthy of the seal of approval, including universities, insurance companies, pharma companies, service providers, various regulatory agencies, hospitals, domestic, international healthcare supply chains, and we will be dealing with all of them by doing the proper survey, and we have a proper homework so that we don't find any discrepancies when we are dealing with them. Then only we give them the seal of acceptance by the Global Summit Institute. The Global Summit Institute is a prominent peer-to-peer organization in recognizing leading doctors, as I told you, various streams of doctors, and you can see the social media everyone knows what we are doing, what our aims are. We want to exemplify clinical excellence, innovation, research, organization, leadership, just one aim, benefit of doctors. So we have an independent accreditation committee, that is the Hex Commission. It will be on rotation so that there is no bias. And we have a great team of the regions which is going to select the Hex Commission. So I would say let's make our views quite conclusive, and we see other committees like I earlier mentioned. Let's see from apart from WHO, etc. as well. And yes, benefit, we'll have great amount of benefits in terms of doctor to patient relationship. When we have a lot of autonomy, we have some self-governance rules, and who can apply for it? Any healthcare provider. I would say any healthcare provider in healthcare industry is most welcome to apply for this Hippocratic Oath, and Hex Commission is going to deliver if feasible and if the person clears the criteria. I hope that suffices the question.
Give you a standing ovation if I could to the camera, but unfortunately I can't. Nevertheless, you're correct. We work based on the Hippocratic Oath. All of these third parties, these lobbyists, these opinion people work based on hypocrisy, because it's hypocrisy when you have an opinion and you haven't treated a single patient in your entire life. And we are open to all of these organizations, these insurance companies, these third parties, management service organizations, to come and obtain that Hippocratic seal so the public knows that you're there to work for their interest, not for a room full of fat cat board members. With that said, moving to the next topic, which is social media, which affects every aspect of our lives. We get our education there. We stay in touch with our friends, colleagues, patients. Where are we today with social media? Dr. Truong, I'm going to pose that question to you. What are the pros and what are the cons? When is it time to sometimes get away from social media? And how can we use it for our benefit?
Pros and cons of social media. Well, number one pros, it makes the world a smaller place. I mean, look at where we're at today, all right? I mean, whether it's the internet, and because of the internet and social media, whether it's this global summit, universal health school that you, the founder, and the doctor movement, because of social media is credibility, it's exposure. And because of this social media, it's like where it makes it easier to get the word out there about our mission, our vision, all right, with what we're doing here as a group. And when it comes to social media as a practitioner, the pros, the cons, let's start with the pros. Again, credibility, visibility, a great platform to educate patients. Right? It is a branding. It is I would say as a practitioner, I'm not going to take the time to be in charge. There's going to be a staff member assigned to the social media for the practice. Now, does that mean I don't know anything? I'm clueless about it? No, I'm going to check, because it is my branding. It is the practice, right? It is what it says about me. And when I say about me, about our practice and the office and what me, the staff member, what we're providing, what we're trying to get out there. And I want people in social media, when they're looking at it, to say, to feel the energy and the vibe. Wow, this seems like a pretty cool practice. And, I want to go check it out. But here's the thing, when we say educating is, these days, I would like to say not only myself, but many of you out there, if I'm wanting to know about a business, right? A certain business, a product, guess what? I'm going to look, I'm going to read reviews. And I know people are going to be reading reviews about my practice, okay? And ideally, yeah, sure, do we want all of them to be 100% positive, right? All this amazing reviews. But once in a blue moon, you're going to get that negative. So here's the cons of social media. The cons is once you have that negative, when I say you, me, the practitioner, I'm going to be on top of it. You're going to address it right away and say, okay, how can we, what do we need to do? What what didn't go right? What are they unhappy? They're so unhappy about, and how can we make it right? How can we make it better? And of course, everything's within reason, right? So when we talk about pros and cons of social media, whether especially in our practice, but in the social life, the personal life, you just got to watch it because you want to make sure it's like not so consuming. So for the practice, for what we're trying to do here as a group, I say it is just a wonderful thing. Again, it makes the world such a smaller place and so much easier to just reach out to everyone.
Thank you for that. That was a great answer. As you know, there are people that sit around in boardrooms and figure out how to affect your physical things, such as, when you hit a like, you have dopamine release and stuff like that. It's very unfortunate, and it's not particular reality. We have to also at some point stay in reality. But for our purposes, as you have mentioned, it's very, very effective. Thank you for that. So here's something, a business, what they teach you in business school, and I went through the program, is that innovation is your lifeline. It's the lifeblood of the business. Without it, it will go obsolete. All businesses will go obsolete at some point or another because they can't innovate readily. So Dr. Krastev, being actually teaching the course at the Universal School of Health pertaining innovation and also holding countless patents. Twofold question for you, Dr. Krastev. Why is it important to innovate for us and create new systems on the business sides of healthcare? And how do we create these type of sustainable businesses?
Dr. Shah, thank you for the question. Innovation is key because innovation drives the future. Companies stay competitive by innovating. If companies stay stagnant and don't innovate, or if we don't innovate, then the standard of healthcare will remain rather static. So by innovating and by thinking of better procedures and better products out there, we, in essence, create better techniques, better systems for treating patients, in our case, as doctors. But I want to switch over a little bit and talk about something important when it comes to innovation, and that is, I encourage all young colleagues, innovate, think of new things. If you like to go for patents, go for patents. But keep a few things in mind that I think are very important if you want to succeed. Study your target market that your invention pertains to. Evaluate, is this market large enough where you actually may get a return on your investment? Because very often we can innovate things that are so niche and so applied to such a small market that they may not be a good return on your investment. So this is very important. How broad is the invention? How many people will you touch with your invention? So these are key aspects. Now, on the other hand, some colleagues and people in general, including myself, we sometimes innovate for intellectual stimulation, for the challenge of it. So it depends how you judge success. For some of us out there, a success is only gauged by material success, how much this can earn for us. For others, it may be, success may be, wow, I want to change the world in a better direction, regardless of how much money I make. So these are things that an innovator must ask themselves. And if you do the right questions and the right examination in your mind before you proceed, chances are then you may succeed and benefit your business in a sense that it will bring some assets to you as well. So these are very extensive topics, and I will plan to discuss this in the Universal School of Health in our program extensively, and we'll go over patents, why, the do's, the don'ts, and a lot of stuff. So I hope that answers your question, Dr. Shah.
Thank you. It certainly does, and I appreciate your opinion in this matter. And we look forward to working closely with our colleagues at the Universal School of Health and bringing their innovations to life. Dr. Chong, autonomy is obviously a major portion of this, having the inherent right to self-regulation of a doctor, which regardless of how third parties and lobbyists and those groups spin the facts, at the end of the day, you're in charge. How do you think we can bring it back as we unite for doctors to be able to regain their autonomy. What are your opinions?
Well, one of the curious things that's happening in Canada, where I'm from and practice, in Alberta, Canada specifically, is that the government here and the governments, provincial governments, have realized that there's potential conflict of interest between the regulatory body, which gives me my license and renewals and sets standards of practice for ethical practice and professional practice, is now being separated by law, where the association's functions and the registry, the licensing functions have now separated. I think that's a good thing, because anytime there's a crossover of regulatory with association or trade functions, it was alluded to earlier that there is lots of room for potential of conflict of interest. And many times there is conflict of interest where you get third parties coming in, basically steering the practices a different way. And that way is usually for the benefit of those third parties and not for us practicing our profession as doctors. So the number one thing I would say is that be vocal, be vigilant, as Global Summits Institute is, with standards of practice, and to keep doctors on board with their regulatory bodies, not to mix them with trade association functions, which could be easily swayed and are clearly being swayed. Now, how do we do that? We must unite as doctors worldwide so that there is a standard of practice that is overseen by a larger organization, and in fact among multiple doctorate professions, so that autonomy and self-regulation does not go by the wayside, because it could. And there are jurisdictions where that's become a huge problem. And trade associations, there may not be any problem with them, but sometimes there is. And it's the regulatory functions that can rein those associations in by saying, no, that is not Hippocratic, that is not ethical, it's not professional. So that's where we need to be vigilant in our own professions, and then even more power when it's united, doctors united around the world.
Great stuff, great stuff. Dr. Sana, coming back to you, my dear friend. When young practitioners come out of school, they're faced with many challenges, and one of those is, what do I do? What are my goals? So the question that I'd like you to address is, how does a doctor decide, or is a group practice or a multiple practice scenario more feasible for them, or solo practice? What are the pros and cons, or versus the one versus the other? And what I always say, it's for clinicians, for young colleagues, they need to know their goals. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? So I think this is a very important question that you perhaps can touch on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kress. And, when I interview new grads coming out, they're often very starry-eyed, and most of them, I would say, have a very similar response in terms of where would you like to be in 10 years? And they're like, I want to own multiple practices. I want to be the king. I want to be everything to everyone. And the bottom line is, there's a reality beyond that in terms of running multiple locations. And while it's very possible to scale a practice to multiple locations, it's just like any other business. You've got to have solid systems. You have to have a great leadership team in place, and as well as has been mentioned throughout this presentation, you have to have a mastery of technology as well. Simply the human resources management required over multiple locations is enough to quickly overwhelm even the most skilled practitioner. Having to staff, manage, and deal with all of the people issues that exist when running a single practice is a big task. doing that across multiple locations can be challenging. So, well, multiple locations can feed your ego. It's sort of a tug of war between ego and EBITDA, right? So I've seen many doctors who have multiple locations ending up taking home the paycheck that would be exactly the same as if they were to have one beautiful, strong location where it's being run with systems, but also profitably as well. So having a vision of what is realistic and what is possible, I think is something that I'd love for our new grads to learn. Get in there, learn the skills of running a business, learn how to run that one business, as we mentioned, having a patient experience that is consistently exceptional, time after time after time. I heard Purple Cow mentioned before, be remarkable and people will remember you. And you'll also probably have in the end a better work-life balance, which is so key to all of us.
Wow, Dr. Sana. I wish I would have heard your opinion 20 years ago, actually 15 years ago when I started, because I am now more profitable in a one practice setting where I focus all my energy and effort and establish rapport with my patients than I was when we had 6 offices and, you know, some 90 plus employees and 12 doctors. You'd think that your income and earnings will go up, but that's not necessarily the case. And you'll encounter a lot of aggravation, HR related issues, things that doesn't necessarily jive with a happy and comfortable life where you have balance. Excellent. So with that said, let's turn our attention back into the Universal School of Health. As you know, Dr. Latron, we draw our faculty from the top doctors movement, some of the best educators in the world. How do you think that we can help our colleagues that have solutions, especially in the age of technology, to create a solution to better than what insurance is, for example, that we talked about with Dr. Kryak? How do we help them? What guarantees are there to be able to succeed after they leave us with their thesis and a big business plan that they wrote with us to go to a financial institution and begin their endeavors?
Well, you know, I love Dr. Sana's answer. He mentioned about the new grads. But guess what? At any point in our career, we can learn. Sometimes as practitioners, we transition, right? A lot of times you hear the question, when am I ready for an associate? Or should I go to another location? Or should I expand my practice? Those are questions that we are constantly encountering as we grow. And the guarantees that we have with our program, first of all, it's an online program. So we guarantee that we're not going to interfere with your busy workday because everybody is busy. Secondly, we are bringing in the expertise of, you know, world-renowned business gurus. A lot of them I have been personally mentored with. And then our esteemed colleagues. I think if you add up the number of years of experience, we're probably going into like 1,000 years of experience. What's most important is the doctors are guaranteed to get those ideas, those systems, those insights that they can immediately implement. The key word here is immediate, right? We don't want to go and sit and learn some theories and then have to distill it down to what's applicable to us. Because the faculty are practitioners who have successful businesses, we are going to give those very practical ideas, things that you can implement, things that you can do today and make changes and see the results tomorrow. So that's what I'm so excited about this program is it's online, it's going at your own pace. It's you deciding what you want, it's you deciding what you learn. And like you mentioned about the research part, in this day and age, along with what everybody wants to say about the social media, positioning is very important. If you can let people know that you are different, you're the doctor, the dentist, etc., but you are also an educator, you also participate in continuing education, you have that research body behind you, they're going to look at you different. We're not competing We're just differentiating ourselves and to serve our patients in the best way and to serve our communities in the best way. So I think anybody who go through that program will thoroughly enjoy that growth, not just business growth, personal growth, and fill that gap between the clinical excellence that we pick up from all of our schools and the business acumen that we need to have in order to be successful.
Dr. Bob Pick, another big one for you that I think is so important. Many of our younger colleagues, especially, they're trained, they have some experience in doing certain procedures. So my question to you, Dr. Pick, is the following. When a colleague doesn't feel confident enough that they can do something, or maybe something more advanced that they typically do, I believe that they should always propose it to the patient, and if necessary, use the referral to a specialist in order to do what's best for the patient. So how do you feel on that issue about proposing a particular treatment to a patient that perhaps a colleague doesn't or is not qualified to do and should refer out? How does that fit into the equation?
Yeah, it's a great question. And when I got the questions, I read each one and really thought about the answer quite a bit. And again, ethics always applies into it, but there's a great line from the one and only Clint Eastwood in one of his Dirty Harry movies, but a man's got to know his limitations. And when you know your limitations, there's no embarrassment to say, from how you present, there's some things here that I think need to go to a specialist. They're trained in that. This is where you need to go. And another thing is recommend the right specialist. And as a specialist, one of the things that I find perplexing all the time, we had a patient the other day that came in and said, my dentist gave me 6 names. You need to see a specialist. Well, what made you pick me? I did an internet search, social media, Google reviews. All these things, when ethics is put into play, are huge. And to go back to my first question, when you have relationship building with a patient, and I never thought purple cow would be mentioned, but when you have it in a purple cow wow way, you're unremarkable from everybody else. You have trust with the patient. The relationship building is there. Insurance means nothing. Patients will never leave you if they have the relationship with you. They trust you. It's the most unbelievable thing. And one of the things that's come out in this discussion is you really need to be independent of insurance companies, in my humble opinion. And I think I'm the oldest one out here, which is a little bit scary because I still think I'm 12 years old. But I remember when a lot of the insurance came out and I said to a colleague, he calls me up, are you going to join this insurance thing? I'm like, no, why? He goes, well, the dentist down the road did it, so I think I better do it or I'm going to lose patients. And I said, you're cuckoo. And so ethics, being remarkable in an amazing way, knowing your limitations and having the relationship with the patient and knowing your why. Dentists know how they do it. They know what they do. Physicians, chiropractors, pharmacists, it doesn't matter. But if you know why you do what you do, a patient never goes anywhere. Great question. End of answer.
Thank you, Dr. Krostev and Dr. Pick. This leads us into another question. It brings up a very important point. The most disgusting form of disservice to the healthcare industry is if you badmouth another doctor's work, another doctor's position to patients. It makes the lawyers rich and fat, and it prevents us from creating unity. We must work with the specialists, but the specialists must also work on our side. We have differences in opinions, but we must support each other. And that's how we can establish better, more referral systems. So that leads into the next question with Dr. Kryak. Patients come into the offices and they say, I only want to have done what my insurance pays for. This is completely opposite to what healthcare is about. We should diagnose diagnosis is a very important word in healthcare. We should diagnose based on the needs of patients and in the best interest of patients. How do we make patients understand what the best needs are, and they're not always what insurance companies are willing to pay for?
Thank you, Dr. Shaw. So, going back to one of the earlier statements talking about patient autonomy. And again, the patients are there and they're the ones that are making the decisions. Unfortunately, there are the insurance companies, and I'm kind of going to jump into this a little bit later, but many of the insurance companies, you have a lot of people in there sitting somewhere in a little box, and they're the ones that are making decisions for both the doctors and for the patients. They're saying this is what's best. But, I like the saying that one size does not fit all. For some patients, that may be good, but for others, not so much. Going back to my earlier answer, with the extent of, how can we unite to overcome these challenges? And I think that that's the key, us uniting. Again, one voice isn't a lot. 10 voices, 100, 1,000, 10,000. Now all of a sudden people are starting to listen. Now, one thing that's important though is that, that there has to be some degree of working with the insurance companies. And, because their solution will be, well, you know what, we'll pay for everything. Sure, we'll give you everything you want. But then what's going to happen to the rates to the patients? So, I think that, that we need to take a look at, and, maybe it's government, maybe it is, some regulations that are imposed on the insurance companies where there are limitations for some of the exorbitant salaries, or possibly some of the ensuring a minimum level of healthcare for patients. I don't know, but I mean, one of the things is this: the most important thing is that we unite together in the best interest of the patients. I mean, that's why we're here. We're not doing this because it's beneficial to us. I mean, part of, we've all taken oaths, and, and our oaths are to help our patients the best way that we can, and then allow the patients to make the decisions on what it is that they want to do. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now I turn my attention to Dr. Greenwood again. Dr. Greenwood, why is it so important that we pass on the baton to our younger colleagues as they graduate? I'm very big on helping the young ones. I'm very big on guiding them so that they don't make the same mistakes. So touch upon that, please.
Early in my career, I was fortunate to seek out exceptional mentors. With that being said, in my opinion, the importance of mentorship within healthcare training is a key component to the clinician's long-term success. It offers a means to further enhance performance, and more importantly, it instills confidence. An example would be learn one, do one, teach one. Additional benefits include multidisciplinary collaboration and networking. These, in my opinion, are priceless benefits to mentorship. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for that response. Yes, in order to create a sustainable system, it has to be a perpetual thing between doctors, devoid of third-party influence. If they want to have an opinion, I strongly urge them to go to a professional school and obtain a doctorate degree. So we are going to start our summary round. Please finalize your answers and summary of what you have just heard and proposals that you may have. We will start with Dr. Demiraki. And in a world of globalization, where we gain all of our equipment, supplies, education from without borders, essentially. How have these accreditation bodies, local accreditation bodies that set rules for medicine and healthcare? Medicine and healthcare doesn't change; it's the same. There's only one way of, one right way of practicing. How have they become less effective, and why do they need oversight? Please respond.
That Dr. Shah, I really agree. The accreditation bodies are created from the governments and are regulated by them. And this means that in order for them to be recognized worldwide, they need to have a mutual agreement between one another. So even two states, let them say 200 states that are around the world, which means they need the structure, unified curricula, which does it really help to something? Is it easy, necessary? What are the criteria and the rationale of this? Chances are that the wealthier states make it more difficult for guys to practice medicine than an outsider. Why is that? I can really think that finance is involved, nothing else, because they put obstacles to make it more difficult to enter into the system. Does this mean a foreign doctor is not qualified enough? So is a surgeon in America more qualified than me for my techniques, for example? These are some questions that I want to pose to you, and they are rhetorical questions because most of them, you know, I can answer directly. And for instance, do you know how many countries you are allowed to work with a US diploma or whatever diploma you have? Do you even know that between states in the US, you have differences for the doctors to be allowed to work? Is it so? This has brought to the point that many countries are now importing doctors. You know, many of these wealthy, so to say, countries, Germany, Canada, are examples that I can say directly. Local accreditation bodies have turned into these regulations into a business. They should have no reason to be. And there is no reason to be a different licensing requirements for in the same country. Medicine and healthcare delivery does not change. It is totally absurd the way it is done. We need a global system of accreditation run by doctors, and not this ridiculous jurisdiction by jurisdiction system that causes just harm. So we know primum non nocere. So first we do no harm. So this is the way I see it, and we should work together to take our destiny in hand. Thanks.
All right, Dr. Jerry. So getting back to our little closing comments here and towards the end, young colleagues, you know, they get the diploma, they graduate, they have their degree, they're trained to do X, Y, and Z. How can we help them take that to the next step and learn everything else?
Well, it's simple. The Doctor of Business Administration with an emphasis in healthcare. This is the DHB. This is a huge step forward in training physicians or doctors in general to be more business minded. When I was in training, just a quick anecdote, I was working with one of the specialists who ran his practice like a well-oiled machine and very business focused, was a good doctor. And I remember asking him one day, you know, when I was witnessing what was going on and the way his staff was operating, and I asked him, hey, what's, you know, this, how does he do this and why? And he told me, he said, you have to remember, you could be the smartest doctor in the room, but if you do not know how to manage practice, you will never be successful. And that's something I took to heart. And even though we tried to get that training and education throughout residency, it was never there. So I think this program, you know, which is born out of the GSI, the Global Summits Institute, I think it's a huge step forward for all doctors who are wanting to take themselves and their practice to the next level to take part in. I mean, it's pretty much a 91-week program, 4-week modules at a time. You do your thesis and your defense of it. And through this program, you will learn all the different aspects of running a successful practice, whether it be on the finance side, managing debt, you know, dealing with HR issues, to the more 21st century stuff, which is like social media and marketing. I think it's for us to be able to help those physicians coming up, those doctors coming up beneath us, and even those who are already in practice to gain an extra edge. It's important for education to be a huge part of it. So that is a universalschoolofhealth.com, and it's the doctor for healthcare business with an emphasis in healthcare. So please, I think that's the best way. I wish I had this when I was in training. I definitely would be loads ahead of where I am right now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morris. That summed it up very well. For our leaders, the innovators, the doctors, they're doctors that are lawyers, accountants. We can turn to them versus the outside parties. But nevertheless, Dr. Mbarus, please tell us who, why, and how they should contact us and self-nominate or nominate other doctors where the process in the entire Global Summits Institute begins.
Well, the process is very simple. Doctors can be nominated by their peers or they can self-nominate. What are we really looking for when we are going to select the top 100 doctors? Well, we are looking for leaders in the healthcare business. We are really looking for the ones who reach beyond the walls of their own, practices. And we're looking for the ones who set the new standards. Where are they going to go? Well, to the hub of all. They're going to go to the top100doc.com. They're going to click on nomination. They're going to insert the name, the country, the degrees, the bio, the social media, a photo, and a CV. And so what's the next step? After they apply, the committee will screen all the applications and they will select the ones who have made a difference in their field. Thank you so much.
Fantastic, Dr. Ora. Dr. Pretender, this is a big one. Let me read it now. That's a long question. How can we limit the access of big pharma, lobbyists, vendors, and other third-party interest groups from influencing the independent opinions of other doctors, regulators, and accreditation bodies, associations, and healthcare boards?
Yeah, Pavel, again, a very heavy question for me, as usual. So I would say the pharma companies, the lobbyists, and the other groups, etc. The relationship between them and the doctors has evoked a heated debate since many decades. However, the evidence determining whether these industries and physicians are they divided or united is still contradictory. So yes, the majority of the physicians do not believe they are affected by these lobbies and pharmaceutical industries. Yes, they are. You can say there are a lot of interactions by means of drug sampling, pharmaceutical representative speakers, industry paid lunches, and we need to cater all this, and we need to formulate a plan for that. So the strategy, there is need to be some strategy that will fix this healthcare in the days of business as usual are over. So I would say some points to solve this problem is, number one, define the goal. First, define the goal of your practice. Then, join some organizations, as I would, say with the proud that Hex Commission and Universal School of Health, that we will be adopting new agendas which will reap huge benefits, even if regulatory change is slow. Will still be going to, in favor of the joining. Then I would say, quickly, I will say some points which are going to solve this. We should regulate to combat physician fraud and self-dealing. We should have a consumer-driven healthcare, evidence-based medicine, new and more convenient models of primary care, global capitation to control spending, reduction of medical errors, electronic medical records, and care coordination, especially for the expensive patients. So I would say, it should not be a stakeholder role. Let it be a role from a patient's perspective. And so this is it. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, we are watching them very closely. Excellent. So, Dr. Chuang, as private practitioners, owners, we have maneuverability, which is a competitive and arbitrage opportunity for us compared to the massive multinational and large entities, or even the ones that have tremendous coffins. But every time they have to move, they have to go through certain processes internally, where more and more unlicensed people have opinions. But we can move very quickly. We can be involved in our communities and outcompete them, and get them out of our communities. So, what is your belief? What these competitive advantages are, and how sole proprietors should put them into effect?
In terms, I'm sorry, repeat the question again.
What other competitive advantages do you think sole proprietors have compared to corporations?
As a sole proprietor, I'm the boss. I'm the boss. I do what I want. I'm going to take care of my patients the way I believe is going to be the best for my patients, of their needs. Of course, as an optometrist, yeah, we take care of the eyes, the vision, the eye health, the ocular health, but everybody can be different. So I'm not going to do what the insurance dictate. You're not going to tell me how to practice. You're not going to tell me how to take care of my patient, or some big corporate. No, yeah, just like the saying goes, you're not the boss of me. It's me, and I do what's best for my patients, period. That's it. I'm the CEO of my business. I'm the CEO of the practice. And well, yeah, technically, my patients are my boss, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, I'm here to deliver it to you. That's it. It's between me and the patients. Nobody else is going to tell me how to do it. Thank you.
The holy patient-doctor relationship, which is uncompromisable. Thank you for that. Dr. Chong, please share with our audience 3 areas you feel of utmost importance when running a healthcare business.
Well, I've been in practice for 35 years. This is my 35th year of practice. So to practitioners of all ages, I would say the top 3 best practice management tips, if you will, are, first of all, start with your own mindset. You've got to be clear on your personal and professional intentions. We talked about ethics. We talked about all these different things, but I'll summarize it in saying, for example, your intention can be betterment of your community, for humanity, for your future society. And a second would be become an excellent relationship builder. Dr. Pick talked a lot about that. Be effective and efficient communicator with both your team so that you can deliver patient-centered care, because that's what they want. They don't want managed care per se. They want patient-centered care, and many patients will pay out of their pocket. And we are in a Canadian model where in chiropractic, basically their user pay for a lot of things. And number 3 is be sure you're always, you and your team, and that you're leading your team to always have a value proposition. In other words, what you're providing as a service and a product is always top notch. And that should be our mandate as a doctor, as your intention, as your mindset. So those are 3 success factors that practitioners of any age can gain from. And of course, the Universal School of Business, I'm pleased and honored to be on faculty to present a lot more details about that.
Wonderful, wonderful, Dr. Chong. Next, I go back to my dear friend, Dr. Sana. Dr. Sana, we touched about working for an associate, working for yourself, working as this. We touched upon that. Now, the next big question, young guys coming out of school, do they buy a practice or do they start a practice from scratch? I started from scratch 30 years ago, extremely difficult. I don't know which one is the way to go. Please.
Well, thank you. And, you know, the days that I think we all experienced when you could come out and put up a shingle and kind of like the movie Field of Dreams, you know, I'm going to build it and they'll come. It's not so easy to do today. And I really think that new practitioners, new grads should take advantage of the trends of healthcare right now, which are consolidation, which are collaboration, and look to see where they can be a part of a multidisciplinary practice, where they can be a part of delivering a unique service to their community. Come out, associate, make your mistakes on someone else's dime, either grow into the role of being able to purchase that practice, or at that point in time, be able to move on and open up your own practice, be your own boss. But I think coming right out of school, you've been so focused on your clinical skills, your diagnostic toolkit, that you might not have had the exposure to the business know-how that it takes to run a startup. Startup means 24/7. Doesn't mean I'm working 5 days a week. I punch in at 9, I punch out at 5. Think about an 80-hour day, 80-hour weeks, and staying on there, being first in and first out. Go ahead and learn from a great mentor, learn from this organization, and then take it and make it your own.
Excellent. Lovely question there. So, getting back to the Universal School of Health, what is the expected investment and return of investment, and including also our scholarship opportunities for those that we wish to recruit, Dr. Latron?
Well, whenever we talk about investment, I want to say the investment is not just financial. The investment is the investment in time. The investment is the investment in effort, in our brain cells, right? And sometimes we sacrifice, we invest our focus, let's say, on business, and then sometimes we forget the family, or we put the family aside, or we put certain relationships aside. So whenever people ask me about investment, I look at the total investment. It's just not a dollar sign. It's everything that you want to put in, and what do you want to get out of it? The ROI for the program is multiples. I can tell you that, because if you think about it, if you can learn from a program and, let's say, get 1 new patient or 2 new patients a month, or maybe you're going to save yourself from a staff leaving you unexpectedly because maybe you didn't train your team well, or maybe you have some embezzlement issue. People hate to talk about that, but these are things that, as a new practitioner, and I applaud everybody who came out and opened from scratch. That's very brave. Takes a lot of work. I don't know about the 80 hours a day. Last time I checked, there were only 24 hours. But anyway, it's going to take a lot from you. So the investment for the program is something that we will discuss with the doctor when they submit an application. And they can also submit the application to apply for scholarship. We cover a big part of the tuition. I can guarantee you that the ROI is multiples, that whatever you learn in one session, you can immediately apply the next day. And we guarantee you growth, not just personal growth, business growth, and a lot of happiness, because you're going to become a well-rounded individual. You know how to do clinical work, you know how to run business, and you can be on top of the world, being the achiever in your industry. So just go to Universal School of Health, submit your application, and click on the check mark that you want to talk about scholarship, and we will reach out to you. Like I said, the ROI is guaranteed.
That was very nice, Dr. Latron. Dr. Pick, another big one for you. So as solo practitioners, we, or in small groups that some of us practice in, we tend to know our patients on a personal level. So can you touch upon a little bit what kind of edge or advantage do we have as solo practitioners or small groups when compared to corporate or third-party entities?
Sure. It's actually a very complex answer that we could be on here for another 12 hours answering, so I'll keep it to 11 hours. But we've had the word relationship come up 4,000 times here already, and great minds think alike. And with the question, there's so many answers to this, but something else I thought of: local communities, third parties, in a very different way. As an example, when you have a relationship, when you are the purple cow and you stand out, As an example, it doesn't matter whether they're doing a surgery, seating a veneer, you've given a shot, scaling root planing. We not only call the patient that night, the next day we send them a video check. As an example, near my practice is a music store. The owner was blown away with the video check. She now, when someone buys an instrument, they send a video check next day, but we were blown away the other day in their store, which is a huge store. They put us in the store. If you need dental care, please see this dude. And so when you separate yourself from the competition, when you know your why, relationship, you can eliminate third parties, if you will, because sticking together, and this is just awesome because it's time that we need to do this. And, you know, being on staff at Northwestern, I never thought I would see that physicians, pharmacists, they want them part of the hospital system so they can control it, if you will, rather than private practice where you do what you want to do. So many answers to this. You get the idea. Just that's it. And just awesomeness is the only word that comes through my head right now.
That was awesomeness in its fullest form. Thank you, Dr. Pig. Dr. Craig, I'm going to put a scenario in front of you to see how backward our systems are, and then I would love to hear your response. So insurance companies set up a massive army of unlicensed people that review claims, causing healthcare professionals to hire more and more people to submit these claims, causing insurance companies to come back and hire more people to check if these claims are true and nobody is misrepresenting anything. Naturally, trillions of dollars. The insurance industry is now a $5+ trillion industry. Trillions of dollars wasted by unlicensed people to look over paperwork which in no shape or form affects patient care whatsoever. What is your opinion on this topic?
Well, I think maybe we could, how about this? I'll say it lightly. Maybe we'll throw it back to them. Maybe we will provide their health care with a group of unlicensed people and see how they like it. I mean, you know, for lack of a better term, I mean, there's the old saying that, you know, take the advice from the people that are closest to the action. Only somebody with a strong background, if you're going to deny a claim for a patient, if you're going to deny them a medication, then you should have the background and the to be able to say, you know what, that doesn't make sense. So, you know, putting it, you know, I've tried to keep my answers all short and simple, and this one is also short and simple. You know what? Only people that have the educational background in medicine, in a particular specialty of medicine, should be the ones who are making decisions or working with the physician, with the dentist, with the psychiatrist, with the optometrist, with the pharmacist, to determine whether or not that treatment is appropriate for that patient. Again, you know, just, you know, saying it lightly, you know, would they want to receive their care from unlicensed people? Well, then why should the care that we're offering be determined by unlicensed people? That's all.
That's a strong point. Dr. Pablo, we got you on mute.
Yeah, no, I just unmuted myself. Thank you, Dr. Shah. Okay, for the last question, I'd like to turn to Dr. Greenwood once again. Dr. Greenwood, lobbyists and companies often pay doctors to promote their products. For example, I mean, how often does it happen that a salesman comes into a clinician's office and says, you know, everyone in the neighborhood is using this product. And in the meantime, they went to the guy next door and gave him a sample only. You know, and this side, I didn't make this up. Dr. Trevor Bavard, that I used to teach with for many years, God rest his soul, at NYU, we taught together. He was the head honcho in the implant program. He used to say this, you know. So how do we prevent companies from giving us false information?
As a licensed pharmacist and dentist, in my opinion, we cannot. Going back to lobbyists a little bit, I'd like to touch on that. The primary responsibility of a healthcare lobbyist is to advance the interest of their client who that client is will have an enormous impact on the actual objective and or the agenda. For example, the needs and wants of a pharmaceutical company can differ significantly from the needs and wants of a public entity, or more importantly, a global university. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Great point. Comes back to the concept of fiduciary duty. So we have concluded the discovery phase of the problems we face. Some calls of actions have been made. We will shift our focus at this time to the inauguration of 300 new doctors coming in to the doctor-to-doctor movement as leaders and innovators and global partners of ours. We're gonna go ahead and share our screen and begin this process. Everybody can see my screen now. On behalf of the regents, the chairs, the Hex commissioners, as well as our colleagues and doctors from across the world, we welcome the 300 new incoming class, the first interdisciplinary cohort of the world's top doctors who have contributed to the betterment of the industry and who we look forward to collaborating with as we grow the Universal School of Health, the agenda of the Hex Commission, the seal, the Hippocratic seal of accreditation, and all of our other endeavors. To participate more with us, here are a couple of pointers. Nominations are submitted through this link. Any doctor can submit a nomination on behalf of themselves or another doctor if they have their information. We need this information to produce the different materials that are needed for podinars and other things. For podinars, as Dr. Ora has described, you will click this link here where you will book as a speaker on dates and times that are permitted. We usually conduct podinars on Sundays when no one is clinical practice or less people are in clinical practice. And you will have the dates that are open that you can click, which are partially booked or fully booked. For next year, they're already all available, the slots there. In terms of magazine, I urge you guys to write with us. The 2021 edition was a wonderful, wonderful success. And the 22 edition will be led by Dr. Orr. And we have begun receiving articles, which is wonderful. If you are a company and you are organization of any kind, accreditation body, university, if you want our colleagues to know that you're in line and you are working for the best interest of patients and doctors, come and get your Hippocratic seal of acceptance. Then they will realize that you are part of this operation, that you are monitored, that we are in agreement with you and what you're doing when it comes to Hippocratic principles, Hippocratic governance, and autonomy for doctors and patients. The Universal School of Health starts here with the program of the DBA, Doctor of Business Administration. You can go online and learn more about it under this link and what the program constitutes, how you can do it while you are in clinical practice, which I did my MBA that way, on weekends and at nights. In a 2-year scenario, you can earn another doctorate, bring your vision to life with the help of your colleagues who care about you and who care about what your career and what will happen, because you're all one organism, one body, one family. Bring us your ideas, bring us your solutions. Let us help you enable those and bring them to market. For the new incoming class, you can see your assets and under the top 100 doc or in the Global Summit's Facebook page. We encourage you to look at your promos. Your certificates can be found here, your press release, and the collage, those items. You're more than welcome to share that with family and friends. Welcome to our grand family of doctors, and let's write history together. With that said, I'll pass the baton to Dr. Krastev to close the meeting.
Thank you so much, Keanu. Ladies and gentlemen, I certainly hope, and we hope, that you have enjoyed this wonderful day. Commissioners, thank you so much for your participation. On behalf of the Global Summit Organization, myself, Dr. Shah, and all the commissioners and everyone, I'd like to congratulate the top 100 doctors. You guys are awesome. As Dr. Bob likes to say, purple cow, wow, kind of awesome. And we thank you for taking time in your busy schedules to share with our audience your invaluable knowledge. And I hope everyone will have wonderful holidays. Be safe. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Whatever you celebrate, we congratulate you. And we look forward to another very successful year next year. And once again, special thanks to our audience. Take care.